What's up, everybody? It's Garrett from Still Overlanding here. Get a lot of questions all the time about my truck. So I got a 2012 Ram 1500. Hundreds of them on the road. Probably thousands. Most people think it's just a Ram. But I get a lot of questions of why my Ram is different. So my 2012 Hemi runs a propane conversion kit, which not a lot of people have, not a lot of people know about, and I get a lot of questions on it. So I figured today I'd do a raw, uncut, first video ever explaining about what makes a propane kit and why I went with a propane kit on my truck. So I'm from Canada, and gas prices last summer were about $1.50, $1.60 a liter, and they were up there for quite a few years. I'm going to say probably almost 2 years they were up there in the price. And propane was 45 cents a liter, or the most I've ever paid was 52 cents a liter. So I started playing around with the kit and decided that I was going to go with the propane kit. They're pricey. They ain't cheap. It's not a simple like $1,000 kit. I think it cost me about $4,800, $5,000 by the time I was done, fully installed into the truck. But the advantage of it is I'm paying basically a third for fuel. Even right now, in the middle of this coronavirus and this pandemic, I'm still paying about 42 cents a liter for fuel, where gas in Ontario currently, as of today, is 92 cents a liter. So I'm still basically paying half of what the cost of fuel is. So a lot of the questions I get, is there an advantage and is there disadvantages? So the advantage I will say is you're paying half for fuel. I worked it out at the time 2 years ago when I was doing the math on it. Is every 10,000 kilometers of driving, I was saving roughly $1,000 in fuel. So now, obviously, those numbers have changed a little bit, but I put $30,000 kilometers, not dollars, 30,000 kilometers on my truck last year alone. So as of last year, I've already paid over $3,000 of that kit off. Now, I've done some big road trips immediately after putting that kit in, and I drove from Ontario to BC. Now, that's where I saw my biggest fuel savings, because I was out in BC and in Kelowna and most of those places, gas was about $1.65 to $1.70 a liter, and propane was 41 cents a liter. So primarily I ran propane while I was out west. The biggest thing I will have to say with the propane is it varies on where you are and who you're getting it from. Because I can honestly say, in the U.S., I came down through Billings, Montana, and that's where I filled up in propane, and I was being charged $1 for propane per liter, and gas down there was about 86 cents a liter. But for some reason, whether it's RV or automotive propane, some gas stations charge you more for automotive propane, yet it's the exact same gas. It makes absolutely no difference. It's who they mark it up with. It's kind of a joke in my opinion. But needless to say, the original reason I put it in the truck was fuel savings. Now, a lot of the questions I get are advantages, disadvantages of efficiency, the whole 9 yards. I'm going to try to address a few of those. One of the biggest things that I will say is efficiency. I carry 144 liters of propane on my truck, where I carry 97 liters of fuel. So for 144 liters of propane, I get approximately 700 and change kilometers to that. Gas, I'm about the same. I'm about 720. So combined, I'm about 14 to 1,500 kilometers. In town is a little bit less. If I run all in town on propane, I'll get about 650, which is about the same for gas. But if I'm highway running, I'm about the same. So you're basically carrying, on average, 20 to 30% more propane to go the same distance as you would on gas, is basically it. Now, I went with a bigger tank design due for the fact of I like to road trip. I don't want to fill up. I don't want to look for propane. And sometimes that's the hardest thing, is finding automotive propane that looks like a gas pump that you can just pump yourself. In some areas, in some states and provinces, that's a lot harder to come by than it is in Ontario. Like here in Kitchener, Ontario, where I'm at right now, I got probably 10 stations I can just go fill up. And I have a card lock system with the guy, and I'm paying right now 30 cents a liter for propane, which I'm laughing. But in some places, it's harder. If you're out in the remote areas, it's going to be a little bit more difficult to get that propane. So that is an advantage, and a disadvantage of it is the advantage is it's a lot cheaper. The disadvantage is sometimes trying to get it. Another thing that people ask me is power. Can you feel the power difference? There is a slight drop in power. Now, when I say slight, I mean you have to have your foot buried to the floor to feel the difference. In my truck, if I have my foot buried to the floor and I shut off the propane, it's about, I'm going to say it's probably like a 10 horsepower kick. There is a little bit of a power loss, but I have towed on propane. I have went up mountains on propane. I have drove for miles on propane, and it is very, you almost don't notice it. The changeover between gas and propane is seamless. The truck starts on propane, automatically switches to gas when it reaches a certain temperature. Once it's on propane, it runs. When the propane runs out, it automatically switches back to gas. And I've done nothing. I've hit no buttons. I've done nothing. It is a completely separate computer, completely separate injection system on the truck that it is seamless. You don't have to do with anything. The biggest thing I think people don't understand about it is they think that they're like the old school systems where you had a switch underneath the dash that you had to turn the switch and that would activate either the propane or the gasoline. And the older systems, I don't know if anyone here has ever had an older system, but they would thump and bang and you would get backfire and the vehicle would either run great on propane and run like shit on gas or vice versa. This new system it's a very, very clean system. I will say I have noticed some advantages with it, and there's been some disadvantages that I would like to say is the efficiency is a disadvantage in my case because I have a twin tank system in the bed, so I've lost a lot of the bed on my truck. You can get them under the spare tire, and most of those are about 80 liters, 90 liters. The problem with that is 80 liters of propane, it's not going to get you. You're not going to drive, 1,000 kilometers on that by any means. Like 80 liters of propane in my truck, I mean, you'd be getting 400 kilometers-ish. So it's kind of, I went with the bigger tank because I know I like to road trip. I also have a Diamondback tonneau cover, so I know if I need to, I can throw things on top of my tonneau cover if need be. But it's not for everyone. That's one thing I will say is propane, you have to have it. The cabs use it. A lot of cabs around my area run on propane for the fact of it's cheap. There's a lot of stations that have it. And it's clean burning. That's the one thing with it. It prolongs the life of your engine to a point. Don't quote me on that. I know someone in the comments is going to argue and be like, oh, that's bullshit. And they're also going to argue with the whole, efficiency factor of it and the whole, combustibility and how it's, it's not doesn't give you the amount of energy as gasoline does, and it doesn't give you the amount of energy. And you know what? You're all right. You know, I'm not going to argue with people on here. But the reality of it is, do your own research if you're going to put a kit in your vehicle. The efficiency thing, in my opinion, is why are you arguing it? Like, I mean, I know for a fact that I put it in, and I've been relatively happy with it. There has been a couple issues, and I think it was where I got it installed. Is a couple of the issues I've been having is it surges if I put my foot to the floor at certain RPMs, and that's because it's got a regulator valve that knocks it down from 350 psi down to a usable, I think it's like 7 to 10 psi is what it's injecting. I have a Y band on my truck, so I can monitor why it's doing it. It's not flooding it per se or leaning it out. It's just the regulator can't keep up with the amount of propane. So I need to either increase the amount of propane that is being poured into the truck or not. One of the other things that I would like to say with the propane kit is it's a hell of an investment. Don't get me wrong. But gas prices aren't going down. Thanks to Trudopia, anyone that's living in Canada basically, is we have this now wonderful carbon tax on top of it, where our gas should be relatively about 50 cents a liter, and now we're paying 90 cents a liter because, well, taxes. So in Ontario, it's an advantage because I don't pay that tax because it's technically classed as a clean fuel. And fuel prices never seem to be stable around here. Like, before a long weekend, they're going to go up. They're going to double. Everyone knows that. And that's the shitty part about it is, unless you have a fuel hookup somewhere, whether it's a reserve, whatever it is, fuel prices never seem to go low or as much as they should be. I've done a comparative to the States right now, and the States is roughly paying about 45 to 50 cents a liter of gasoline, and we're paying 92 to 95 cents a liter here. And that's carbon tax and whatever the hell else it is. There's many different factors of what it is that's causing that. But the reality of it is propane is, I've never seen propane in the years that I've had it, in the years that my friends have had it and companies that have had it, I've never seen propane ever go above 58 cents a liter is the most I've ever seen it go. And it doesn't fluctuate as much as what gasoline does. Gasoline, if it's a long holiday coming up, guess what? Tag on another 10-15 cents a liter, because that's what gas stations do around here. You're going to get screwed. Where propane, it doesn't fluctuate. The only time it really fluctuates is in the fall. It sometimes goes up a bit in the fall because of people heating their houses, supply and demand. But it, like I said, I've never seen it go expensive. The other thing with propane is, for your vehicle's sake, it's clean burning. When you burn gasoline, you get carbon, you get all that other black soot and shit that comes out of the back of your car. Where propane, you don't have that. Propane's clean burning. I wish I had some oil laying around, but I can do an oil change at 7,000 kilometers on my truck. Even 8,000, even probably 10,000 kilometers. I do an oil change every 7,000 on my truck. But I can pull the dipstick at 7,000 kilometers or drain the oil, and it's almost as clean as it was as the day it went in. Because you don't have the carbon. You don't have any of the soot that comes along with burning gasoline and all that stuff. So that's an advantage. If you want to prolong your oil changes, it's very hard to find. This is why I'm going to start making videos, and hopefully better videos than this one. This is just kind of my first video ever. But I'm trying to make videos that explain the propane kits a little bit better, because there's huge advantages and there's huge disadvantages. There are areas that you can look at to find information on the advantages of running it in your vehicle. They say it prolongs the life of your motor. because you're not getting the guck, you're not getting the buildups, you're not getting a lot of the shit that would regularly be going through your vehicle, through your gas system. Europe's been having them. One thing I will say is Europe's been running the kits, same with Italy and all of them, for years in vehicles over there. And the kit that I have is actually out of Europe. They've been running them for years because their gasoline costs and diesel costs over there is over $2 a liter. So it's been proven. It's not a new system. It's not the old school carbureted systems that used to come where you get your little plate and you'd put that underneath your carb and then you'd have to sit there and mix your ratios. It's not like that anymore. I have a totally separate set of injectors. I have a totally separate computer system. The only thing I will say is it does crowd up your engine bay a little bit. It's a cleaner install than I've seen some, but I will say it does take up a fair amount of room under the hood of your vehicle. So if you're all concerned about wires going everywhere and stuff, it might not be for you, because you have a fuel injector, then you have a tube coming off that injector, then you have the wires, then you have the wires splicing into your original injectors that tie into your original computer system. It's not when I'll do a video underneath the hood of my truck, and you can clearly see that it looks like I have two main wiring harnesses underneath the hood of my truck. I just did a timing chain and stuff, and I was dreading it because of how much stuff I thought I had to disconnect. It's really not that bad. It just looks overwhelming more than anything. I will say I've been happy overall with the kit. The amount of money I've saved in fuel, the kit has for sure paid for itself. I will not argue that. I have not had to do any maintenance to the kit other than a propane filter, which you have to do I think the initial one was 50,000 or 20,000, something like that. Don't quote me on that. And then every 10,000 after that. The filters are not expensive. I'm paying, I think, $10 a filter for not even. And 2 gear clamps, boom, it comes off, put a new one in, you're ready to rock. That's the only thing I've ever had to do to the kit. It runs flawlessly, I will say that. There has not been an issue that I've had with it at all. Guys I know don't like the fact of losing, say, truck bed or trunk space, because you can get them in cars. Cars put them under the spare tire. Now, a car, that would make sense putting it where your spare tire is. But I will say, if you don't want to lose bed space, it might not be for you. If you want to put it where your spare tire is, you could lose your spare tire, but some guys, offset, the cost of a CAA or a AAA in the States membership. It might be worth it to do it. If you got a good towing package, who cares? You pop a tire, get them to tow you home. But once again, it's not for everyone. I will say I love the kit. I've had no issues with it. It has ran flawlessly for the amount of years that I've had it on the truck. And I've had it on elevations. I've started this truck this winter. I think we got down to minus 30. And it runs on the propane. No problem. Like I said, it's far beyond the old systems that they had. The old systems where they were jimmy rigged together. You were splicing harnesses and throwing injectors where you shouldn't be. They were hacked, in my opinion, hacked in. The new systems are great. The one thing I will say is if you're going to do it, it's expensive. It's not $1,000 and you're good to go. I will say to try to buy a kit and put it in yourself, good luck. It is a pain in the ass to try, because I'm not going to lie, I looked around, I thought about doing it. But then I realized that your vehicle, for one, you cannot insure once you put it in. 2, if it blows up, you're liable, and you could be in for a world of shit if you do it wrong. 3, it's not much cheaper. I think the kit alone, just to buy the kit, was $1,200. So, and I think that was a 4-cylinder kit. So then you have to add on, in my case, because I had the V8, you have to add the extra accessories and injectors and all that fun stuff. So I think it was about $2,000, and that's not including the tank. That's just the computer, the harness, the injectors, the whole 9 yards, but not including a tank. Then you got to get a tank. Then you got to run the line. Then you got to do this. They had my truck for, I believe it was 5 days to install it. And that was to run, because it runs a copper line, that was to run a copper line to do the fill tubes, to do the wiring on the tank. I got a little indicator that tells me when my tank's low, to mounting the new computer, to tying into the existing harness. They had to take the intake off my truck and drill ports for my injectors for my propane. It's a very involved process than just throwing a propane kit on. Yeah, I'm sure if you're tech savvy, but the hardest thing is find someone that'll sell you the kit, and then find somewhere that'll sell you the tank. Tanks I don't think are as hard to come by as the kit, but I can tell you right now, it's not an easy thing to locate and to find. But I will say, if you're thinking about investing it, do your research. I have not seen a single video on a Hemi or anything like that running it. And this is why, like I said, I'm trying to make videos. This is super low grade. This is super not my best, but I'm going to try to get better at it as I go. But I will say that it was very hard for me at first to find any information on it. I kind of went off of a big contracting company around here. They have a fleet of 500 vehicles, and all their vehicles run it. I know Ford and Chevy come from the factory outfitted with these in their vehicles. It is a special request, and you can get it put on factory direct on some vehicles. I don't know about Dodge. Never really did the research. When I bought my 2012, it wasn't even a thing, even a thought on my mind. But I will say that if you're thinking about doing it, do your research. I'm going to try to put out more videos because there isn't a lot of videos online. And if there is videos, I'm going to tell you right now, they're in Russian, they're in Croatian, they're in a foreign language. And it is hard to find a video in English that properly explains how the kit operates, how the advantages and disadvantages of it. I'm going to do a more in-depth video of them, of the kit, when I get the time and when I can upgrade my video setup if need be. I'm shooting this on a BlackBerry right now. Yeah, I still rock a BlackBerry. But I got to get a more defined list put together for people that are asking. I can literally show you guys. I have hundreds of people asking me questions on it. Some are stupid questions. Some are people challenging me, saying that I don't know what I'm talking about and stuff. But these are people that, you know, read something online and then want to challenge you on it. The world's full of assholes, and guess what? There's tons of them out there. But the reality of it is, I'm running it. I've paid my personal money to put the kit in. This is not sponsored. If it was sponsored, this would be awesome, but it's not. I pay to put the propane in the vehicle. I pay to do the maintenance on the vehicle, and I paid to get the kit installed, managed, and I've done the other over and above, which is trying to fine-tune the kit a little bit more than most people do. But if anyone wants to challenge me online in the comments, go for it. But the reality of it is, unless you're running these kits, unless you've used the kit, I'm going to say, probably safe to say, I have over 50,000, close to 50,000 on this kit. And anyone out there that has a kit and has run more miles than me, that's fine. But there are two different kits out there. There are manufacturers that make these kits. Every kit's different. Every vehicle's different. Every environment's different. So maybe it runs like shit on your vehicle, but are you running an older system? Are you running a new system? Are you running an all 4-cylinder, 6 and 8? Are you running a good system? Are you running a cheap Chinese brand? Because guess what? They're out there. Are you running you know, proper filters. Did you do it yourself? Did you do this? Like, there are so many factors when it comes to these kits. And I'm not going to argue with people. Very simple. Simple as that. But reality of it is, this is my first video. Sorry guys, it's probably brutal. It's probably put back together. But hey, shit happens. You got to start somewhere. So I'm going to come up with more videos just on gear, camping stuff, whatever. Like I said, this is my truck. This is also my camping rig. This is also my off-road rig. This is also everything. So there'll be more videos when I get the courage to do it. But hey, you got to start somewhere. Hopefully this gives you a little bit of insight. I feel like I just rambled. But if you want to put some questions down in the comments, I'll read them. I'll see if I can clean up the videos. See if I can make them more direct, more on one subject. I kind of winged it today. It's hot outside. I was just outside doing the lawn. It's 40 degrees. I don't know what that is. It's probably pushing about 90s in the U.S. It's hot out there. It's humid. It's our first heat wave. So, figured I'd do a video. If you like it, awesome. If you don't, well, too bad. Shit happens. Alright, buddy. Wish you guys the best. Talk to you. Bye.